Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. The next day, Emma sat on her couch, groaning into the pillow. The events of last night were still fresh in her mind, and her face turned red every time she thought about it. She had gone to a blind date, sat at the wrong table, and ended up talking to a complete stranger, only to realize he wasn't even the person she was supposed to meet. The embarrassment lingered in her chest like a heavy stone. "I can't believe I did that," she muttered to herself. "I must have looked like such an idiot." Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Jenny. "Hey, are you okay? You disappeared so quickly last night." Emma stared at the text for a moment before replying, "Yeah, just needed a moment to breathe. I'll explain later." She set her phone down, sighing deeply. She was still a little shaken by the whole experience. It had been so awkward, and she just wanted to forget about it. But as she lay there, her mind kept drifting back to him. Liam. His eyes, his smile, the way he listened to her, made her laugh. He had been so easy to talk to, which was a rarity in her life. And that smile, there was something genuine about it. She had misread the situation, thinking he was just some quiet guy on a blind date, but now, she couldn't help but wonder who he really was. She couldn't shake the thought that their conversation had meant more than she'd initially thought. Meanwhile, across town, Liam sat in his penthouse apartment, staring at the New York City skyline. The lights of the city flickered below him, and the usual hum of the city felt oddly distant. He had gone over the events of the previous night in his mind 1,000 times. He had let Emma think he was someone else. He had played along because, honestly, he wasn't used to people treating him like he was just him. It had been refreshing, talking to her. She didn't know who he was, and for the first time in years, he didn't have to worry about people seeing him only for his wealth. His phone buzzed, and he glanced at the screen. It was a message from his assistant. "Claire, you've cancelled your meeting with Rothman. Is everything all right?" He hesitated for a moment, then typed a quick response. "I met someone last night. Just thinking things through." He sat back in his chair, his mind still on Emma. There was something about her, something real, something that he hadn't felt in a long time. He didn't know what it was, but he knew he couldn't just let her walk out of his life without trying to see her again. He thought about it for a while. He had no intention of making things complicated. But he wanted to see her again, to clear up the confusion. He picked up his phone and sent her a text. "Hi Emma, this is Liam, the guy from last night. I know it was a mix-up, but I'd like to see you again. Maybe coffee sometime?" He sat there for a long time, his fingers hovering over the screen, before hitting send. It wasn't the smoothest message, but it was honest. He hoped she would say yes. Back in her apartment, Emma stared at the message for a long time. Liam? The guy from last night? She felt her heart flutter at the thought of him reaching out to her again. He was the one who had made her laugh, who had made her forget about everything else. But she wasn't sure what to think now. She had thought he was just some random guy she'd never see again. But now that he had contacted her, she felt a mix of excitement and confusion. She showed the text to Jenny, who raised an eyebrow and smirked. "Well, what are you going to do? Are you going to ignore him or?" Emma bit her lip, her fingers tracing the edge of her phone. "I don't know," she admitted. I don't want to look stupid again." Jenny laughed softly. "Look, if he was nice to you, then he's not going to think you're stupid. Just say yes. It's coffee, not a life commitment." Emma hesitated for a moment longer before typing a response. "Okay, coffee sounds nice. When and where?" She hit send and waited. Her heart raced, but she couldn't help but smile. Maybe this was the start of something unexpected. A second chance for them both. The next day, Emma arrived at the coffee shop early. She had never been great at waiting, but she wanted to be on time. She looked around the small, cozy cafe, her nerves bubbling up again. Was this really happening? Was she about to meet Liam again, under completely different circumstances? She felt like she was walking into a dream, but one that she wasn't sure she was ready for. A few minutes later, she spotted him. He was sitting at a corner table, wearing a simple gray sweater and jeans, completely different from the polished look she had seen the night before. He looked like any other guy her fancy suit, no luxury accessories, just him. He looked up as she approached and gave her a small smile, his eyes warm. "Hi, Emma," he greeted her. "Thanks for meeting me." Emma smiled, her nerves starting to ease. "Of course," she said, sitting down across from him. "I didn't think you'd actually reach out after last night." Liam chuckled. "I wasn't sure if I should, but I'm glad I did. I didn't want to just let it end like that." As they sat and talked over coffee, Emma found herself relaxing more and more. They shared stories, laughed, and even disagreed on a few things, but it felt easy. It felt real. Maybe this blind date mix-up was the best mistake she'd ever made. They spent hours talking, and when they finally said goodbye, Emma couldn't help but feel like she had just experienced something life-changing. Maybe this wasn't a one-time thing after all. But Liam still hadn't told her who he really was, and a small part of her wondered if he ever would. The next few days felt like a whirlwind for Emma. She kept thinking about the coffee date with Liam, replaying their conversation in her mind over and over. They had connected so easily, and despite her initial awkwardness, everything felt surprisingly natural. She hadn't expected to feel this way, especially after what happened the night they met. Her thoughts kept drifting back to the little details: his smile, the way he listened to her, how he seemed genuinely interested in what she had to say. Meanwhile, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted in him after seeing Emma again. His life had always been about business, meetings, and maintaining a carefully crafted persona. But with Emma, he didn't feel the need to hide behind his status. For the first time in years, he had shared something real with someone, and it felt good. He wasn't sure where this was headed, but he knew he wanted to see her again. His assistant, Claire, had noticed the shift in him and had been teasing him about it for days. "You're distracted, Liam," she had pointed out one morning. "What's going on with you?" He had brushed it off with a laugh. "Nothing, just some work stuff." But deep down, he knew it wasn't just work. It was Emma. He wanted to know her more, beyond the mistaken identity, beyond the awkwardness of their first meeting. He hadn't told her who he really was yet. Part of him wanted to keep the mystery alive, but another part of him knew that if this was going to be real, he couldn't keep hiding behind his wealth. He had to be honest with her eventually. That night, he sent her a text. "Hey, I've been thinking, how about dinner this weekend? Just the two of us, no distractions." He waited, his heart beating a little faster as he hit send. It wasn't a fancy invitation, but he wanted to keep things simple. He didn't want to overwhelm her. Emma was lying in bed when her phone buzzed. She picked it up, her heart skipping a beat when she saw Liam's message. "Dinner this weekend?" Her mind raced as she read the words again. The idea of seeing him again, just the two of them, made her nervous, but excited at the same time. She hadn't expected him to reach out again so soon. She had been thinking about him, wondering what it would be like to get to know him better, but part of her still wasn't sure if it was just a casual thing for him. She hadn't forgotten that he hadn't told her who he was yet. She took a deep breath, then quickly typed back, "That sounds great. I'd love to." She hit send and immediately felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. What was she getting herself into? The weekend came quickly. Emma spent the day getting ready, trying to decide what to wear. She didn't want to overdo it, but she also wanted to look nice. After all, this wasn't just any dinner, it was with Liam. She picked out a simple dress, one that made her feel comfortable but still pretty, and spent a little more time than usual on her makeup. She couldn't help it. She was nervous. When she finally arrived at the restaurant, her heart was pounding in her chest. Liam was already there, sitting at a table by the window. He looked relaxed in a casual jacket and jeans, and when he saw her, he stood up with a smile that immediately put her at ease. "Hey, Emma," he greeted her warmly, pulling out her chair. "You look great." "Thanks," she said, blushing slightly. "You look good too." She sat down, still trying to shake off the butterflies in her stomach. They ordered their food, and the conversation flowed just like it had before, easy, comfortable, and real. They talked about everything and nothing, sharing stories about their lives, their passions, and their dreams. Emma found herself laughing more than she had in weeks. Liam seemed to be just as comfortable as she was, and it made her feel like they were both on the same page. But as the night went on, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Liam still hadn't told her who he really was. Every time she tried to ask, he would shift the conversation, and she didn't want to push him. She kept telling herself that it didn't matter, was here with her now, and that was all that mattered. But the curiosity kept nagging at her. Finally, after dessert, she couldn't take it anymore. "Liam," she said, her voice soft. "You've been so open with me, and I appreciate that. But I feel like there's something you're not telling me. Who are you really?" Liam looked at her, his expression softening. He had been waiting for this moment, and now that it had come, he felt a strange mix of relief and fear. He took a deep breath and decided it was time. He had never wanted to hide who he was from her, but he also didn't want to overwhelm her with the weight of his world. "I'm Liam Parker," he said quietly. "I own a tech company. And I guess I should have told you that earlier." Emma's eyes widened slightly, a mixture of surprise and confusion crossing her face. You're a billionaire?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam nodded. "Yeah, but I didn't want to be that guy. I wanted you to get to know me, not the title." Emma sat back in her chair, trying to process everything. She had thought he was just a regular guy, someone like her, trying to make it through life. And now, she was faced with the reality that he wasn't. He was Liam Parker, the Liam Parker. But as she looked at him, she saw the same warmth in his eyes, the same kindness that had drawn her to him the night they met. He wasn't just a billionaire. He was Liam. And she wasn't sure what would happen next, but she knew one thing: this wasn't the end of their story. The following days were filled with mixed emotions for Emma. She couldn't stop thinking about Liam and the truth he had revealed to her. A billionaire. Liam Parker. She had been sitting across from him, someone she thought was just another guy, a regular person like her, and yet, he was a tech mogul. It took her a while to process everything. She was still trying to wrap her head around it when Jenny reached out to her again. The following week, Emma couldn't stop thinking about Liam. Their time together at the gala had left her with a mix of emotions: excitement, confusion, and something else she wasn't quite ready to admit. He had been so genuine with her, treating her as an equal in a world that felt so foreign to her. Despite her initial hesitations, she found herself looking forward to the next time they would meet. But as the days passed, the reality of their lives started to sink in. She was still a waitress, struggling to pay bills, still dreaming of one day opening her own art studio. Anne was a billionaire, a man whose life seemed so far removed from hers. Every time she thought about it, a knot formed in her stomach. How could this ever work? Emma's mind raced as she prepared for another shift at the diner. She was cleaning the counter when her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from Liam. "Hey, are you free this Saturday? I was thinking we could grab lunch, just the two of us." She smiled to herself, her heart fluttering at the thought of seeing him again. She quickly typed back, "I'd love that." "What time?" Saturday came, and Emma was a bundle of nerves. She had spent the whole morning trying to figure out what to wear, unsure of how much effort was appropriate for lunch. In the end, she went with something casual, a simple dress that she had worn a few times before, but that always made her feel comfortable. She took a deep breath before leaving her apartment, reminding herself that this was just lunch. Nothing more. When she arrived at the restaurant, a cozy little bistro downtown, she spotted Liam right away. He was already waiting for her at a corner table, dressed casually in a light sweater and jeans. He looked relaxed, but there was a slight nervous energy about him too. As she walked over to him, he stood up with a warm smile, his eyes lighting up when he saw her. As they left the bistro, Liam offered to walk her home, and they strolled together, talking about everything and nothing at all. The city felt different to Emma now, like anything was possible, like maybe just maybe she could find a way to belong in his world without losing herself in the process. The evening ended with a simple goodbye, but the promise of more to come. Emma went to bed that night with a smile on her face, feeling like things might finally be falling into place. The following weeks with Liam were nothing like Emma had expected. Their time together felt easy, almost effortless, and Emma found herself growing more comfortable with each passing day. The initial awkwardness from their first few meetings had melted away, replaced with something that felt more natural. Liam was still a billionaire, but to Emma, he wasn't just that. He was someone she could talk to, someone who made her laugh and feel seen in a way she hadn't in a long time. They spent more time together, sometimes at art galleries, sometimes at quiet dinners, just enjoying each other's company. Emma couldn't help but notice how much her life was changing. She was starting to feel like she belonged in this world, even if just for a little while. Liam never treated her differently because of her background, never made her feel less than anyone else at his events or around his friends. He made her feel like she was enough. But even as things seemed to be falling into place, Emma couldn't shake a nagging feeling in the back of her mind. She still hadn't fully let go of her doubts. Her life with Liam, as wonderful as it was, felt like it was on borrowed time. She was constantly afraid that one day, he would wake up and realize she wasn't what he needed, someone who fit in his world, someone who shared his lifestyle and ambitions. One evening, as they sat together in a small park near her apartment, Liam turned to her with a serious look on his face. "Emma," he said, his voice soft, "there's something I've been meaning to tell you. Something I should have said a long time ago." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She knew he had been acting a little distant lately, but she didn't think it was anything serious. She braced herself for the worst, unsure of what he was about to say. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam took a deep breath, looking at her intently. "I don't want you to feel like you're just part of some temporary thing, Emma. This isn't just about fun or distraction for me. I care about you. A lot. And I want you to know that this isn't a fling." Emma blinked, her thoughts racing. She had never expected him to be so open, so vulnerable. The words he was saying felt like a balm to her insecurities, but they also made her heart ache with uncertainty. "But I don't fit into your world," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm just a waitress. I don't have the life you do. What happens when the novelty wears off?" Liam reached out and gently took her hand. "I don't care about your job, or where you came from, Emma. I care about who you are. You don't have to fit into my world. I just want you to be in it. I want you, as you are." His words settled over her like a warm blanket. But even as her heart swelled, the voice of doubt whispered in her mind. Could this really work? She had spent so many years fighting to make ends meet, to hold on to her dreams of becoming an artist. Could she really let go of all those doubts? Could she trust Liam enough to build something real together? She squeezed his hand, feeling a rush of emotion she didn't quite understand. "Liam, I don't know how to do this. I've never had anything like this before. I don't want to mess it up." Liam smiled, his eyes soft with understanding. "You don't have to be perfect, Emma. You just have to be you. And that's enough for me." They sat in silence for a few moments, the weight of his words hanging in the air between them. Emma felt like something inside her was finally starting to open up, like she could finally allow herself to let go of the fear and embrace the possibility of a future with Liam. It was scary, yes. But maybe it was worth it. As they stood up to leave, Liam wrapped his arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "Let's take this one day at a time," he said, his voice full of reassurance. "No pressure, just us. We'll figure it out together." Emma nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something real. Something that could last. And for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to believe it. Later that night, as she lay in bed, Emma stared at the ceiling, a smile tugging at her lips. It wasn't going to be easy, and there would be obstacles along the way. But with Liam by her side, she finally felt like she was ready to take a leap of faith. After all, she had nothing to lose and everything to gain. And so, as the days passed, Emma and Liam continued to grow closer, their bond strengthening with each shared moment. No matter where life would take them, they knew they were building something real, something worth fighting for. Days turned into weeks, and Emma and Liam's connection continued to deepen. They spent more time together, gradually weaving their lives into one another's. Emma had begun to feel comfortable in his world, though there were still moments when she felt like an outsider. Liam was everything she had never expected in a person, kind, understanding, and so unlike the arrogant millionaires she had read about in the tabloids. He never once treated her like she was beneath him, never let the wealth that surrounded him define their relationship. Yet, as things progressed, Emma found herself facing an inner conflict she had never anticipated. The more she grew attached to Liam, the more her doubts about their future began to rise. She wasn't sure she was ready for a life that was so different from what she had known. She had built her world on hard work and resilience, while Liam had built his empire with wealth and influence. How could they make this work? How could they bridge the gap between two completely different lives? One evening, as they walked through the park near Emma's apartment, the weight of her thoughts grew too heavy to ignore. Liam had been talking about an upcoming business deal when he paused and looked at her, sensing her distraction. "Hey, what's going on? You've been quiet all night." Emma hesitated, unsure of how to voice the storm of emotions swirling inside her. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Liam, I need to be honest with you. I'm scared. I'm scared of what this might be. What this could become." Liam stopped walking, turning to face her with a serious expression. "What are you scared of, Emma?" he asked softly, his gaze steady and understanding. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. "I don't know if I belong in your world, Liam. I've never had anything like this before. I'm just a waitress. A small-town girl with big dreams. I don't fit in with the people you're surrounded by." Liam stepped closer, his hand gently touching her arm. "Emma, you're more than enough. You don't need to be anyone else to be with me. I care about you for who you are, not what you do or what you have. And if this is what you want, if you want to be with me, that's all that matters to me." She looked up at him, feeling the sincerity in his words. But the doubt still lingered. "But what if this isn't enough for you?" she asked, her voice tinged with vulnerability. "What if you wake up one day and realize you need someone who fits in more with your life, your world?" Liam smiled, a soft, reassuring smile. "I've had everything I could ever need, Emma. But I still feel like something's been missing. And I found that something when I met you. I don't need someone to fit into my world. I need someone to share it with. I need you." His words hit her deeply, and for the first time in a while, Emma felt a sense of clarity. She had been so caught up in her fears of not being enough, but Liam wasn't asking her to change. He was asking her to be herself, and that was enough. She took a step closer to him, her heart finally opening to the possibility of a future with him. "I want this too, Liam. But I need to believe in it. I need to believe that we can make this work." He nodded, his expression gentle but full of conviction. "We will. We'll take it one day at a time, together." As they stood in the park, wrapped in the quiet of the night, Emma realized that maybe, just maybe, she had been looking at this all wrong. It wasn't about fitting into his world. It was about finding a place for both of them, creating something new together. And for the first time, she felt ready to take that step. The next morning, as she prepared for another shift at the diner, Emma couldn't help but smile. The future still felt uncertain, but for the first time, it didn't seem so daunting. With Liam by her side, maybe she could navigate this new chapter after all. As the weeks passed, Emma and Liam settled into a comfortable rhythm. Their relationship continued to grow, and despite her lingering insecurities, Emma couldn't help but feel happy in a way she hadn't in years. Liam was there for her, offering support and understanding in ways she hadn't thought possible. He made her feel valued, and that was something she had never experienced before. However, as their bond deepened, Emma began to notice something unsettling. Liam's world was vast and complicated, filled with meetings, events, and responsibilities she couldn't quite understand. She saw him slip into that world so effortlessly, while she continued her job at the diner, always struggling to make ends meet. The disparity between their lives was beginning to feel more real, more pressing. She couldn't ignore the fear that maybe, one day, their different worlds would catch up with them. One evening, after a long day at work, Emma met Liam at a quiet cafe, just like they used to. She sat across from him, feeling the weight of her thoughts on her shoulders. She had been avoiding this conversation, but she knew it was time to face her fears. Liam looked at her with a smile, but she could see the concern in his eyes. He had noticed her distance over the past few days. As the days passed, Emma and Liam's relationship continued to grow. They both worked hard to balance their personal lives and their professional worlds, learning to navigate the complexities of their differences. Emma had started to feel more comfortable in Liam's world, and Liam had become more involved in hers. It wasn't always easy, but they made it work. Liam never pushed her to change, and Emma slowly began to open up more to the idea of blending their worlds together. One evening, as they walked through the park, hand in hand, Liam turned to her with a smile. "You know, I've been thinking," he said, his voice soft. "I'm really glad we're doing this. I'm really glad we're trying." Emma looked up at him, her heart full. "Me too," she replied, squeezing his hand. "I've been scared, but I feel like I'm starting to understand what we are." Liam smiled, stopping for a moment to face her. "I know we've had our doubts, but we've been through so much already. And I don't want to wait any longer." Emma blinked, confused for a moment. "What do you mean?" Liam took a deep breath, then slowly knelt down in front of her. Her eyes widened in surprise as he pulled out a small velvet box from his pocket. "Emma, I don't need more time to know that you're the one I want to be with. You've changed my life in ways I can't even explain, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" Emma stood frozen, her heart pounding in her chest. This was everything she had dreamed of but never thought could be real. She looked down at Liam, his eyes full of love and hope. She had always been afraid of what might come between them, but in this moment, everything felt right. She had fought so hard for her dreams, for her independence, and now she realized that her dreams had changed. She didn't have to choose between her world and his. She could have both, as long as they had each other. With tears in her eyes, Emma nodded, her voice shaky. "Yes. Yes, I will marry you." Liam smiled, his face lighting up with joy. He stood up, pulling her into his arms and holding her tightly. "I promise, Emma, this is just the beginning. We're going to make it work. I'll be here, by your side, every step of the way." As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Emma realized how far they had come. They had gone from strangers to friends to something so much more. Their love had been built on trust, honesty, and a willingness to embrace each other's worlds. And now, as they stood on the edge of their future together, Emma felt more certain than ever that this was where she was meant to be. Over the next few months, they began planning their wedding, a simple ceremony, just close friends and family. Emma's art studio was starting to take shape, and with Liam's support, she was finally able to make her dream a reality. They were building a life together, one that was full of love, growth, and shared experiences. The day of their wedding arrived, and as Emma walked down the aisle, she couldn't help but smile. She had found love in the most unexpected place, and now, she was ready to begin the rest of her life with the man who had shown her that anything was possible. As Liam took her hand, he whispered, "You're my everything, Emma. And today is the start of forever." And in that moment, with the love of her life by her side, Emma knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. This was their love story, a story of two people from different worlds, finding their way to each other, and building something beautiful and real. The end.